Good evening, chat. Welcome. We've got some Trump stuff tonight. There has been a ruling on the Trendy Arugula case, the case involving the Alien Enemies Act and the deportation of Venezuelan nationals suspected of being in Trendy Aragua, also known as Trendy Arugula. We're going to take a look at that. And I will apologize. The thumbnail's a bit clickbaity. If you were like the Emperor of Mankind is victorious, that didn't really happen. We're going to get to it. We're going to get to what it actually says and who actually won and what do they get. And then what does it mean for everything else going forward? So we will get to that here in a second. Welcome everybody to the show. My name is Sean, also known as Potentially Criminal. I am an attorney in the Cleveland, Ohio area, and we are talking about this and some other cases tonight that the Supreme Court has ruled upon, and some, kind of the aftermath of what these cases are. And just to give you guys a bit of an idea of things that we're looking at and what to expect going forward. And yes, what to expect while you're expecting. So we are live tonight on Rumble. We are live tonight on Twitter. We are live tonight also, last but not least, over here on YouTube. So I hope you guys join us somewhere. Everything should be running full blast. Hold on here. What is it? That is. Let's see here. Why is it not popping out? Sorry. Other than that, we are going to get going here pretty freaking quick. So I am curious to know. Hope you guys are. Oh, hold on here. I saw some of you guys commenting on things in chat before. It's the Trendy Aruba. No, Gandalf. Nico says, please tell me you have more than one dress shirt. I do. I like the color blue, so I have various blues and stuff. But yeah, I do. Thank you. Oh, JF got on with them. We'll see. Well, we'll see. We shall see. Mr. Squiggles for $10. I saw your comment. I was gonna comment on that if you wanted to real quick. Super chat. I do appreciate it though. I've been having a rough year. My uncle died in February. I'm sorry for that. I'm sorry for your loss. I had to put one of my dogs down in March, and my father passed away a few days ago. Give Clyde a hug for me when you get the chance. I certainly will, and I really am sorry for your losses. That's a lot of loss to take all at once. It really is. It's one thing when you start losing, your little friends, and then you start losing real family. And I could say, knock on wood, I haven't had to deal with that yet. I'm very fortunate. I've been very blessed in that regard. So, my thoughts go out to you and your family, and I hope you have some good memories. And remember, you get to keep those memories. So that's the best part about it. You get to keep those memories, and you can remember them from a better time. And let me see if I can get Clyde in here real quick. Hey, Clyde Bear. I want to hear him scampering. Come here, buddy. Come on. Come here. Come on, Clyde. Hey, Dingleberry. Come on. Oh, there you come here. There you go. So, yep, he's here. So, anyways, I hope you're. Gosh, like he went outside or he rolled in pee. I can't tell. Anyway, so I just wanted to tell you, Squiggles. Like I said, I am sorry for your loss, but that is something you have to experience, and I hope you can. Like I said, hope you remember things in a better time, and you won't ever heal, but you will move on. You will get through it. So I'm sorry, that's all I can offer you, but that's really all I can offer you. Mr. Squiggles has been a member for 30 months. Clyde, okay, if you went down, I'm going to have to put you down because you're just running crazy right now, buddy. He's just like clawing and swimming away out there. So there so thank you for being here for 30 months. I appreciate the support. Like I said, guys, when you start seeing numbers like that, it's so cool to see those. It's flattering, it's humbling. So thank you guys all for being here. Thank you all for being here. And then where did I see Sky Queen? I am so sorry for the local or for the members only stream. You guys had jumped in before I had switched it over to being members only. So my apologies. I'm very sorry about that. I didn't mean to do it. I didn't mean to do that to you. You better not put Clyde down. Okay, thank you. Oh, all right, guys. So we're gonna. Oh, we got a couple of other things here. Shredder S 07. It's been a member for 9 months. Thank you for the support. Says still a dude. Well, thank you, Shredder. I don't know why for some reason I thought you were a chick, but you were. And then Nico, 17 months. Thank you for the support. And then the Chugi Show live is saying, everyone just want to know if Aaron is lying about the FBI. LOL. I don't know. I don't know. Don't know. I mean, if you're in a competition between if Aaron or Nick are telling you things, I mean, obviously you can believe one more than the other, but do with it what you will. Use your judgment, chat. Use your judgment. All right. It is time to get started, I think, because you guys are watching Jean-Francois. Jean-Francois, I gotta pee. Yes, you know, he is the neuroscientist. Talked to a bunch of housefraus in Alberta. I'm sure that's going to go well for him. I'm sure he's not going to incriminate himself. We may have to watch that and analyze it later. Maybe I get Runkle to help me because that would be funny. But we are going to get started with this Supreme Court silliness here. Yes, another win for the toe. Oh. So here we go. All right, guys. So the first couple of things we have that are out here are we're going to go back to the case of Kilmar Armando Abrego Garcia. He is the Salvadoran guy who his mom was making the little Crunchwrap Supremes in El Salvador. And then the gang members are like, hey, orale, we want in your papusa business. Give us your money, Holmes. And then they all ran away to America and they never did anything right with their immigration status. And then they said, they thought he got to the immigration court and they said, afuera. And he's like, no. I seek asylum. And they're like, don't care. And they still put him on the plane. Well, the judge in that case had ordered the United States government get him back and bring him back to the United States by a certain date. And the Supreme Court already got involved in that and issued an order for this. And this is where I think we're starting to see the beginning of the end of the judicial assault. Because these judges are they're really starting to get out over their skis with what they're ordering and being able to do. So this is from the Supreme Court of the United States. So obviously it's the Supreme Court. They got involved. And they said that ultimately Kristi Noem and the Homeland Security and the Trump administration said, Supreme Court, we need you to stop this crazy judge. They're out of control. So it eventually got up to the Supreme Court, and they say it's ordered that the April 4th order of the United States District Court for the District of Maryland is hereby stayed pending further order of the court. It is further ordered a response to the application for a stay be filed on or before Tuesday, April 8th. So it's a bit of a basically the Supreme Court, just like in these other cases, we're pumping the brakes a bit here. Time out so we actually can hear from both sides to figure out what's going on. So we shall see what happens. I think this is starting to get to the beginning of the end of this, though. Now, wasn't this guy part MS-13? Well, there are some allegations. He said he was. Regardless, Robert, the thing was, he was here illegally. He got caught. He had a deportation order. And then he tried to get asylum, but he did it way too late. It didn't work. It wasn't timely. So the holder they had on him, the administrative error, wasn't even really valid. He should have been deported. So he got a fuered legally. I don't feel bad for him. Now, This is the one where I told you guys, I admitted I got kind of wrapped up in the bullshit myself and ran with it. So that's where we are with that. So that guy, afuera, he's gone. He's gone. Panzer News says MS-13 isn't a terrorist organization. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. The FTO list. We're going to go to this real quick. We're going to accept the cookies from the State Department. So this is the United States State Department's foreign terrorist organizations. And as you can see, Ansar Allah out of Yemen, the Sinaloa cartel, the Jalisco, the CJNG, Nueva Generacion cartel, the Noreste cartel, the Nueva Familia Michoacana, the Cartel de Golfo, the Gulf Cartel, the Carteles Unidos. That almost sounds like a fucking soccer team. Trendy Arugula, then Mara Salvatrucha, MS-13. They are a foreign terrorist organization, so they are a thing. They are a thing, chat. So, Ben Pook says, damn, I'm a member of half of these. Yes. Now, Torgo the White, you bring up a point. Are these really terrorist organizations? I mean, that's where you get to the issue of, and remember, I said this becomes an issue because when you start naming people terrorist organizations, you can then deal with them like they're terrorist organizations. And then you have things like renditions and the CIA getting involved. And then that means, hey, Anwar al-Awlaki got fucking drone strike because the CIA came to the president and said, hey, Obama, we think he's in Al-Qaeda. And he's talking shit and he's working for Al-Qaeda. And Barack Obama said, let me be clear. Friendly Predator missile inbound. And he hit the button. And they killed him. So that is a problem. That's always been a problem. And like I said, guys, I wasn't joking. Like the clear and present danger idea. Like, yeah, that's a very real possibility here. 7th Group has been invited back into Mexico to help train the Mexican army. How long is it till you think they're going out on a training mission where they run into some fucking guys and they start banging it out with the cartel members? Or they work with, Fuerzas Especial and they go out on a joint mission. Like, it's going to be some Call of Duty type shit. That's a real thing. That's the issue here. That's the issue, you guys. And real quick, somebody mentioned FARC. Yeah, the yes, the Revolutionary Armed Forces of Colombia. Yes, the communist in Colombia. But they've been considered a terrorist organization for a very long time. And they've conducted a terror campaign in Colombia forever. That's why, that's a whole thing there. So then you had like the AUC fighting them. There were all kinds of different organizations that were fighting in Colombia. But like you had the AUC, the Auto Unions, or the Unions, Autos, or whatever they are. Anyways, the right-wing paramilitaries. So that was a whole thing there. It was a whole thing there. So CGD got slapped as terrorists. Everybody did, yeah. Isn't the Nuevo Genera of the CJNG? I don't think so. I mean, that was the issue with like Los Zetas, but most of those guys are dead or in prison now. So I'm sure there's people with some decent training that are out there. It wouldn't surprise me. Heck, I think even Sean Ryan admitted he did some shit for the cartels down there. So now the DSP detractors. Yes, the Dents are FTOs. All right, so moving on from there, you guys. Moving on from there, we also had some other cases. And we also have the Office of Personnel Management against the American Federation of Government Employees. This is the case out of San Francisco where Trump fired all the probationary employees. Yeah, he looked at all of them. He looked at all of them and said, Afuera! Well, those guys filed a lawsuit in San Francisco, and the Supreme Court issued an order. And this is where it gets interesting, because if you guys see, it was presented to Justice Kagan. Justice Kagan is the justice responsible for the Ninth Circuit and things coming out of it. So it was presented to Justice Kagan, and it was referred to the court, is granted. So it talks about there was a preliminary injunction entered by the District Court for the Northern District of California in San Francisco, is stayed pending the appeal in the United States Court of Appeals for the Ninth Circuit. And the disposition of a petition for a writ of certiorari is such writ is timely sought. They say, should certiorari be denied, this stay shall terminate automatically. So if at some point nobody's happy with the Ninth Circuit and it gets appealed up and cert is granted, then the stay stays in effect. If the Supreme Court denies cert, then the stay is terminated. So, and they bring up some interesting things here. The district court's injunction was based solely on the allegations of 9 nonprofit organization plaintiffs in this case, which means the unions. But under established law, those allegations are pretty insufficient to support the organization's standing. This order does not support or does not address the claims of other plaintiffs, which did not form the basis of the preliminary injunction. So you did see that Sotomayor would deny it. Justice Jackson would have denied it. So you have right now a couple, so you have at least 2. It was probably 6-3, because remember, Kagan was on it and it was granted. So I don't know if you want to count the 7-2, 6-3, you can look at it either way. And this is pretty good. Oh, Nico says I'm good on Rumble. Thank you, brother. I appreciate it. So this could have been 7-2, or it was 6-3. Either way, like I said, we're getting to the beginning of the end of the court's starting to tire of some of this nonsense. And these cases are fucking around, and they're not the best cases to be doing this with. Because you have these unions suing, and these nonprofits are suing. And it's like, wait, you guys, this is not looking good. Now, they're not ruling on other merits of the case, but this is just starting to disintegrate the attempts to paralyze the Trump administration with these TROs. It's starting to fall apart. It's getting there, you guys. It is getting there. So just there's a lot that's going on. We're almost getting there. And where are we here? Now, moving on from here, we're going to move on to the main event. Now, it is time! We are moving on. Here we go. So, this is the per curiam opinion, meaning nobody's signing it. It's the Supreme Court of the United States versus Donald Trump, President of the United States. Doesn't get old saying that, chat. Doesn't get old saying that. Versus JGG et al. And this is on the application to vacate the orders of the District of Court in the District of Columbia. So it's Judge Boasberg. And we already talked about things here. So they talk about this matter concerns the detention or removal of the Venezuelan nationals believed to be members of Tren de Aragua, an entity the State Department has designated as a foreign terrorist organization. And from here, they cite the Federal Register designation of that. The president issued Proclamation 10,903, invoking the Alien Enemies Act to detain and remove Venezuelan nationals who are members of TDA. They talk about the 5 detainees in a putative class sought injunctive and declaratory relief against the implementation of and the removal under the proclamation. And this is where we have to put a pin in this. Initially, the detainees sought relief on habeas, among other causes of action, but they dismissed their habeas claims. And then they talk about in March, the district court issued 2 temporary restraining orders, the TROs, preventing any removal of the named plaintiffs and preventing removal under the AEA of a provisionally certified class consisting of all non-citizens in U.S. custody who are subject to the proclamation. And the district court extended the TRO for 14 days. The D.C. Circuit denied the government's emergency motion to stay the orders. The government then applied to this court seeking vacatur of the orders, and we construe these TROs as appealable injunctions. Now, this is where the sand is starting to shift, chat. And I mentioned before, ACB, Amy Coney Barrett, she did not, remember how I mentioned this to you before, she has a thing where she detests interlocutory issues because she would rather let the record play itself out. But ACB is kind of all over the place in this opinion. I think she's starting to sour. I think that this is, even Roberts got involved on this one. We're going to it's starting to get to the point where I told you the court is going to tire of some of this bullshit. So what's the ultimate issue here? We grant the application and vacate the TROs. Now, they point out that the detainees seek equitable relief against the implementation of the proclamation. They challenge the government's interpretation of the act and assert they don't fall within the category of removable enemy aliens. So they're challenging this and they say, we are not removable enemy aliens. Okay. But here's where the court gets involved. And they say, we don't reach those arguments. We're not going to touch them today. They point out challenges to removal under the AEA, a statute which largely precludes judicial review, must be brought in a habeas corpus petition. So you have to file the writ of habeas corpus. That is important, chat, because remember, up above, they denied and they waived and they forfeited their habeas petitions. Oh, chat, I forgot to put a goal up, chat, but there's a goal for you. They point out that this is important, and they cite the case of Willoughby versus Watkins, and this is about Germans being removed from America, and they're citing they filed under habeas. And they also point out the Hakila v. Barber, and it says, I think that's a Finnish name. That says habeas is the only cause of action available to challenge deportation under immigration statutes that precluded judicial intervention beyond what was necessary to vindicate due process rights. And they say, regardless of whether the detainees formally request release from confinement because of their claims to release necessarily imply the invalidity of their confinement and removal under the AEA, their claims fall within the core of the writ of habeas corpus and thus must be brought in habeas. And what does that mean? It means you must file habeas where you are. So for most of them, it's going to be in Texas, but for some, it's not. Now, what does that mean for them that are in Texas? Well, that means the Fifth Circuit is in play. And the Fifth Circuit is probably not going to be friendly to them, so they're probably going to get a fuerad. So that's an issue. So they talk about for core habeas petitions, the jurisdiction lies in only one district, the District of Confinement. And this gets to Rumsfeld versus Padilla. And this is one of those cases, like I said, guys, there's Hamdan, Hamdi, Padilla. There's all kinds of cases that the Supreme Court dealt with in the War on Terror where we have to address these issues. And they say the detainees are confined in Texas, so venue is improper in the District of Columbia. As a result, the government is likely to succeed on the merits of their action. Yes, because the court has no jurisdiction here. Judge Boasberg has no jurisdiction. Now, notice, they're not saying the AE is bad or anything like that. They're just saying this is not the right court to do something. So I know people were screaming from the rooftops, this was a dub. This isn't a dub. This is a very weak sauce dub. So they point out the detainees also sought equitable relief against summary removal. Although judicial review is under the AEA is limited, we have held that an individual subject to detention and removal under the statute is entitled to judicial review. So you are entitled to judicial review, even though it's limited, You are allowed to say that because there's questions of interpretation and constitutionality. But more importantly, are you in fact an enemy alien 14 years of age or older? Are you 14? Are you older than 14? Okay. Are you Venezuelan? Are you actually in the gang? There are things you can challenge. So what was going on earlier is somebody's kind of like assessing stuff and filing it and sending it out. That's not going to work. So the detainees' rights against summary removal, however, are not currently in dispute. The government agrees that the TDA members are subject to removal under the Alien Enemies Act, get judicial review. And they say it's well established the Fifth Amendment entitles aliens to due process of law in the context of removal proceedings. And they say, so the detainees are entitled to notice and opportunity to be heard appropriate to the nature of the case. Now, this becomes an issue. What does this actually mean here? Does this mean you just get an immigration judge? Does it mean, what exactly does it mean you get? So it's answering some questions, but it's leaving out a lot of questions here. What exactly do you get? What process are you due? Now, they say more specifically, the AEA detainees must receive notice after the date of this order. They are subject to removal under the Act. The notice must be afforded within a reasonable time and in such a manner as will allow them to actually seek habeas relief in the proper venue before such removal occurs. Okay, so that means you can't get out in the morning. But once again, what is a reasonable time? These are unanswered questions that'll have to be addressed in a district court in Texas. And they say, for all the rhetoric of the dissents, today's order and procuring them confirm the detainees subject to removal orders are entitled to notice and an opportunity to challenge the removal. The only question is which court will resolve that challenge. For the reasons set forth, we hold the venue lies in the district of confinement. The dissents would have the court delay resolving that issue, requiring our decision today, and let the process begin anew down the road. We see no benefit in such wasteful delay. So it's all been vacated. The March 15th minute orders granting the TRO and the extension are vacated. It is so ordered. So what does that mean? Well, we know who signed this in part because we can get down here to the dissents. But first, we have to get to a concurrence. So Justice Kavanaugh, concurred. And he says, I agree with the procuring opinion. The court's disagreement with the dissenters is not over whether the detainees receive judicial review of their transfers. All 9 members of the court agree that judicial review is available. The only question is where it should occur. That venue question turns on whether these claims belong in habeas proceedings or instead maybe be brought under the Administrative Procedure Act. I agree with the analysis. They must be brought in habeas. He also adds, I will add only the use of habeas for transfer claims is not novel. In the extradition context and with respect to transfers of Guantanamo and other wartime detainees, habeas corpus proceedings have been the long appropriate vehicle. And these are things that are done there. So yes, it has been done throughout the global war on terror. And they say that general rule holds true under the AEA, the statute under which the government is seeking to remove these detainees. And he also cites going back to the English Habeas Corpus Act of 1679, if not earlier, habeas claims are the proper way to bar a transfer. So they say, given the history and precedent of using habeas to review things, and given the United States Code, which states that claims under the APA are not available when there is another adequate remedy in a court. And that's the thing. There's another adequate remedy, meaning a habeas claim, which means there aren't going to be TROs. All this shit with the TROs. The court is tired of it. They're finding ways to get rid of it. They don't want to deal with it. That is a big problem here, chat. If you want to do this, you have to do a habeas corpus petition and get that there. Now, guys, the habeas corpus petition is really where you just come into court and you look at the judge and you have a motion saying, I demand to be brought before this court and I demand to be able to contest why I'm in detention. Why am I being held? Why are you holding me? I want to challenge this. Now, here's what would happen. You file your habeas petition. You're being held under the Alien Enemies Act. Okay, Well, how do you know I'm an alien enemy? Well, we think you're over the age of 14. We think you're a Venezuelan. We think you're in TDA. Okay. We think you're here unlawfully. You're not a permanent or lawful resident. Well, so guess what? I can challenge those things. Maybe I'm less than 14 years of age. Maybe I'm here lawfully. Or I'm a permanent resident. I don't know. Who knows? Am I actually in TDA? Am I actually Venezuelan? Those are all 4 things I can challenge in a habeas motion. Hold on. What's the issue here? Yes. Do you, in KLF, this is correct. Why are you holding me? What's your proof? Are you allowed to keep holding me? Now, there are other things in habeas where people challenge as part of like post-conviction relief, like in your criminals who have been convicted and they're challenging stuff out. That happens as well. That's a different thing there. So I don't worry about that. That's a different vein of habeas. We're talking about, for example, if you called me, and you're like, I'm stuck in jail and the police won't tell me what's going on and I haven't had court in a month. I've been just sitting in jail for a month. We would file a habeas corpus petition demanding the court haul your ass in. And we look at the prosecutor and say, why is he here, Mr. Prosecutor? What's going on? And then the prosecutor's going to have to go, well, and they'd have to come up with an answer. So, yes, the habeas corpus stuff didn't really apply to January 6 people. Yes. So, that is an issue here. Oh. Now this is great because we know it's 5-4 right there. Okay. Now we move on to the dissents. Now here's where things go and everybody lost their fucking mind because obviously Sotomayor, Kagan, and Jackson joined in. Now notice Barrett only joined to 2 parts, Part 2 and Part 3B. So Justice Barrett didn't really fully join them. So it's like, this is like 3.5. The parts she dissents on are important, but it's like 3.5. It's not actually 4 because she's not agreeing with everything. And we're going to explain why this isn't exactly, because of the other things that were decided, why Barrett's not exactly like, we're going to get to this. We're going to get to this. So they talk about, though, 3 weeks ago, the government started sending scores of Venezuelan immigrants detained in the United States to a foreign prison in El Salvador. True. It did so under the Alien Enemies Act without due process of law, designed for removal in a time of war. They say between the start of these removals, a district court has been expeditiously considering the legal claims of a group of detainees who allege their summary removal violates the Constitution and multiple statutes. The court ordered a pause on those removals, and it could consider their motions for a preliminary injunction at a hearing tomorrow on April 8th, so today. And it said still a majority of this court seeks fit to address the issue today. So yes, Chet, if this hadn't been decided, Judge Boasberg was going to decide today on things. Now, this is where Sotomayor starts panicking with bated breath. Critically, even the majority agrees, and the federal government now admits that individuals subject to removal under the AEA are entitled to adequate notice and judicial review before they can be removed. What does that mean about the guys who are already gone? They're afuera. It's too late. That should have been the end of the matter. Yet with the bare bones briefing, no argument, and scarce time for reflection. Now that's something where Justice Barrett and other judges are saying, we haven't had true briefing. We haven't had things done. The problem is people like Judge Boasberg went full fucking retard on things. Even he had to admit, I don't know if I have jurisdiction here. How am I doing this? What am I doing? Well, that's a problem, and that's an issue here. So, yes, there was the bare bones briefing, no argument, and scarce time. Well, this is kind of Judge Boasberg's doing. And they say the court announced that legal challenges to an individual's removal must be brought in habeas petitions in the districts where they are detained. Now they point out, the legal conclusion is suspect. Is it really? I don't think so. The court intervenes anyway, granting the government the extraordinary things, and it does so without the grave harm the plaintiffs will face if they are erroneously removed to El Salvador or regard for the government's attempt to subvert the judicial process throughout this litigation. And they point out the court should not reward the government's efforts to erode the rule of law. Now they point out this is the president's unprecedented. I mean, it is unprecedented. With the peacetime invocation of a wartime law known as the Alien Enemies Act. It was the Alien Enemies Act is a counterpart to the widely denounced Alien Friends Act, which granted the president sweeping power to detain and expel non-citizens he deemed dangerous to the peace and safety of the United States. Unlike the Friends Act, which lapsed in disrepute as James Madison deemed it a monster that must forever disgrace its parents, the founders saw the Enemies Act as a constitutional exercise of the power of declaring war and to raise and support armies. And it's true, that makes sense. That makes sense. And they say, to that end, the act grants the president the power to detain people. Yeah. Now, they say that it had only been done 3 times. The War of 1812, World War I, and World War II. That changed on March 14, 2025. When he said there was an invasion by Tren de Aragua, a criminal organization based in Venezuela. And now this is where Sotomayor says that there is no ongoing war between the U.S. and Venezuela, nor is Tren de Aragua itself a foreign nation. The proclamation asserts that TDA is undertaking hostile actions and conducting irregular warfare against the territory of the United States, both directly and at the direction of the Maduro regime in Venezuela. I guess, and here's the issue I always have with this. Let's say Al-Qaeda started operating in force along the southern border. Would we be able to use the Alien Enemies Act? And, because like Al-Qaeda is a nation, or ISIS operating as a nation. We had ISIS in, Chihuahua, or the Sonoran ISIS movement. Would we be allowed to do something there? I don't know. But that's where it becomes an issue. So, Congress requires the president to make public proclamations of his intent to invoke the AEA. Trump did just the opposite. And what can only be understood as a covert preparation to skirt both the requirements of the act and the Constitution's guarantee of due process, DHS began moving Venezuelan migrants from immigration and customs centers across the country to the El Val detention facility in South Texas before the proclamation had been signed. They said the detainees, now this is where the detainees, most of whom denied past or present affiliation with the gang, did not know the reason for their transfer until the evening of the day before, when they were pulled from their cells and told they were being deported to an unknown destination. And this is where obviously people tipped them off, because several lawyers anticipated their imminent deportations and filed a putative class action in the District of Columbia. Now, this is where you are contesting things, but this is more of judicial review outside of habeas. They're claiming this is not an invasion or a predatory incursion. They also asserted it violates the due process clause. And they say in the early morning, the court did all of this, and they talk about all the things here that happened, but we're actually going to get to things here. This is more of what happened. The district court issued its TRO and named the 5 plaintiffs, including JGG and GFF, who had been on a plane for 40 minutes to an hour, waiting. And then they were retrieved and told that they had just won the lottery, which they probably did. Now, they keep moving this. They keep going here. So we're going to skip all of the we're going to skip all of that, but this is something we're going to address in a minute. The concerns about the government's compliance quickly followed, and even now the district court continues to investigate what happened via show cause proceedings, meaning he's looking to see if I have to hold someone in contempt. So, as they move on here, we are going to address the issues here. El Salvador has boasted that its inmates in CCOT will never leave. And plaintiffs present evidence the inmates are rarely allowed to leave their cells, have no regular access to drinking water or adequate food. They sleep standing up because of overcrowding, are held in cells where they do not see sunlight for days. And guys, that was the point I brought up to you. I have a concern there. Like, okay, fine. We get, like, here's the thing. They're saying people don't, like, okay, like the people who are wrongfully there. But even then, the people, like, if they're TDA people, like, are they stuck there forever? I mean, we renditioned them. That's a thing. Like we did that during the War on Terror. The CIA fucking sent people to black sites everywhere. And it's, those guys are important too, not just the people who are allegedly there wrongfully. Michael Gelke, you're saying, I would argue that if you do paramilitary things, you win military prizes. Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. It makes sense. But I think there's more. There's a lot more here to consider. So they say one scholar estimated that a 375 detainees have died in Salvadoran prisons since March 2022. And remember, guys, we talked about this when El Salvador was starting to do this. You're like, I don't know if this is a good idea how they're handling shit. Like, are they doing things the right way? I mean, keep in mind, this is Central America, and it's not known for, law. It's known for law and order, not necessarily justice. So here's the thing. What if the government determines later it sent someone there in error? Or the court decides the president lacked the authority under the AEA to declare that there was an invasion. And the government takes a position that even when it makes a mistake, it cannot retrieve individuals from the Salvadoran prisons to which it has sent them. And that's true. And that's part of the Abrego Garcia decision. Remember, that's the guy who got afuera. The implication is that not only non-citizens, but also U.S. citizens could be taken off streets, forced onto planes, and confined to foreign prisons with no opportunity for redress or judicial review, is denied unlawfully before removal. Yes, this is what we did during the GWAT. We did this all the time. We did this all the fucking time in the GWAT. Like, this happened. The CIA did this shit all the time. It renditioned people. It sent them to black sites. We also did drone strikes on people. Anwar al-Awlaki is still the biggest fucking example of it. The guy got drone strike because the CIA said, oh, we think he's in Al-Qaeda. How sure are you? We're kind of sure. Good enough. Like, that's it. History is no stranger to such lawless regimes. The guy who appointed you to the bench, nominated you as part of that. I mean, let's be real. So, I mean, like, you guys can all get drone striked right now. Myself, I could get drone striked right now. And there's nothing the government could do it if they decide I'm a threat. Okay, I guess I'm okay for now. Whew. In the meantime, chat. Okay, we're back. All right. So they said even the government has continued to litigate whether its March 15 deportations complied with the orders. It simultaneously sought permission to resume deportations under the proclamation. Now, remember, if they can do it otherwise, they can still deport people. So the district court, at very least, concluded they were likely to succeed on their claim before they were deported. They're entitled to an individualized hearing. Okay, but they're not doing it in the right part. They're not doing the right spot. It is only this court that sees reason to vacate for the second time this week a TRO standing on its last legs. Not wait. And notice she's saying, well, they won't wait till tomorrow when the district court will have a chance to fully consider the briefing at a scheduled hearing. This court intervenes to relieve the government its obligation under the order. You just said it's on its last legs, so you're acknowledging it's bullshit. Why are we arguing about that? If it's bullshit, it's bullshit, Your Honor. Really, it is. And then it says, and you know what, guys, it's just caterwauling here. And it says, so Justice Sotomayor says, begin upon which all 9 members of this court agree. The order dictates in no certain terms, you are entitled to judicial review. Yep. As well to the interpretation of Constitutional Act, whether he or she is in fact an enemy alien 14 years of age or older. Yes. Therefore, under today's order, courts below will probe, among other things, the meaning of invasion or predatory incursion, and ask, for example, whether an individual is in fact a TDA member. Even the government has now largely conceded that point. And notice they're saying, so too we all agree with per curiam's command. about the Fifth Amendment. That means, of course, the government cannot usher any detainees, including the plaintiffs, onto planes in a cloud of secrecy as it did on March 15th. Nor can the government immediately resume removing individuals without notice upon vacator of the TRO, as it promised the D.C. court it would do. And they say to the extent the government removes even one individual without affording him notice and a meaningful opportunity, so he does so in direct contravention of an edict by the United States Supreme Court. Now, this is where Justice Barrett is involved. Like, we talk about this, you guys. So what did Justice Barrett do? So she was involved in two parts that she was here on. Parts 2 and Part 3-B. So as we move on here, she did talk about part of this. Hold on here, chat. I'm trying to find this. I lost my spot, chat. So this part here, part two, is all about the issues of habeas. So she agrees with them on that. But notice she's only agreeing in these parts, Part 2 and Part 3B. So she goes on to keep whining. The court's ruling today means that those deportations violated the Due Process Clause's most fundamental protections. The district court rightfully intervened to prohibit temporarily the government from deporting more individuals. Based on its correct assessment, the plaintiffs were likely to be entitled to more due process. And they say the reasons, apparently, is the majority thinks plaintiffs' claims should have been styled as habeas actions and filed in the districts of their detention. And reaching that result, the majority flouts the well-established limits on its jurisdiction and creates a new law on the emergency docket and eludes the serious threat our intervention poses to the lives of individual detainees. Well, they're working with you here, Justice. And they say, as an additional matter, the court lacks jurisdiction to review the court's time-limited interlocutory order. Now, see, this is bullshit here. There's no jurisdiction in a time-limited interlocutory order. And this is where they try to hide behind the temporary restraining orders are generally not appealable. And this is, once again, this is where they're testing things. See, Amy Coney Barrett does not agree with this. She looks at this and says, I don't agree with this. I'm not co-signing this part. So she's looking at this and she's like, I'm not down with this. I don't support this. This is where, remember, guys, I said ACB doesn't like doing it, but this shit is probably starting to piss her off. Like, it's getting very, very, very retarded. So they say here, they talk about the district court trying to do things here. And they say, so it's hard to see why the district court's TRO presented the government with an emergency of any kind, much less one that required an immediate appeal. Well, if you can do it now, you can keep doing it. There's an issue about the precedent this would set. But now we get to the part where ACB again joins them. They say it's also troubling this court's decision to vacate summarily the district court's order on the novel ground that an individual's challenge to his removal under the Alien Enemies Act falls within the core of the writ of habeas corpus. It must therefore be filed where they are detained. Now, we don't know which part of this ACB is having a problem with. Is it all of it? Is it only part of it? Is it this part of it? We don't know. Maybe it's just this part of it. We don't know which part of this she has a problem with. Now, this might be the issue here for her. It could be this part here, that there's without oral argument or the benefit of percolation in the lower courts, meaning no record has been developed. We're not 100% sure. I think it's probably a little bit of everything she's getting a little pissed off about. And it says this conclusion is dubious. And she keeps on moving here. And she says, indeed, because all the plaintiffs were already in immigration detention under other statutes when the government subjected them to the proclamation, they have repeatedly emphasized they do not seek release from custody and are not contesting the validity of their confinement or seeking to shorten their durations. Now, remember, all these guys are here under other statutes, so they're already subject to deportation orders and detention orders. They're just trying to say, no afuera, no. Ay, no afuera, me please, por favor. They don't want to be afuera. Now, what does this go for on? Well, they talk about, they move on to the cases, and they talk about, oh, wow, somebody got grumpy out in the hallway. No, I did not talk about Alyssa's nuke from earlier today. They talk about the plaintiffs, however, do not imply the invalidity of their detention because it predated the proclamations. So before the proclamations, they were already in custody. If they succeeded, they could not be removed under the proclamation. That would not result in their release from detention. Yes, but now that we currently have ties and open relations with Venezuela for the time being, they could all be shipped back to Venezuela, like we talked about was happening before. As of a couple weeks ago, flights are resuming to Venezuela, and we're dumping shitloads of them back into the trash heap of Venezuela from whence they came. Did Clyde too? No, I think something happened out there. I didn't know if Clyde growled. It sounded like it for a second. So that would neither terminate their custody or accelerate the future date of release from custody, nor reduce their level of custody. And they say there's good reason to doubt the availability of relief under 1983 extends to the Administrative Procedure Act claims challenging the action under the AEA. And this is important because this becomes an issue here. And they talk about this arose from, and they're going back to the Heck case here. And the court held, and they actually said this, individuals serving a state criminal sentence cannot bring a 1983 action, a deprivation of rights under the color of law, because unconstitutional treatment at the hands of state officials, if they got a judgment in their favor, would imply the invalidity of his conviction or sentence. So that is a case where, you can only, you have to be, there's a limit to what you can do as far as bringing 1983 actions. And they were trying to avoid the habeas statute's coverage of claims that prisoners are in custody in violation of the Constitution. And they say this court has never limited the availability of the APA relief so narrowly. Well, everybody likes the APA until it's time to do APA shit. And to the contrary, the APA has long been available for plaintiffs absent specific preclusion by Congress. Now, notice we are still we are in 3B, and we're still in 3B. So ACB is going along with this. Although the APA allows courts to review only agency actions for which there is no other adequate remedy, this court has long read that limitation narrowly, emphasizing it should not be construed to defeat the purpose of providing a broad spectrum of judicial review of agency action. And they say that the court has repeatedly said that habeas and APA actions were both available to non-citizens challenging their deportation orders. They're talking about going back to the 1956. They're talking about their 1955. And they talk about they allowed for judicial review of a deportation order under the APA. And they say against that backdrop, there's every reason to question the majority's hurried conclusion the relief supplies the exclusive means to challenge removal under the AEA. And they say if the district court were to resolve the question in plaintiff's favor, the government could have appealed to this court in the ordinary course, and we could have decided it after thorough briefing and oral argument. Yes, because, oh no, you would stop the Trump train. That's the problem. It would stop the Trump train. You are limiting Article 2 power. And that's okay because it's Article 2 power you don't like right now. Now they talk about that. This is not a rare case where the court must immediately intervene despite the risk of error attendant in deciding novel legal issues on the emergency docket. And they say, recall the dispute that has now narrowed into a debate about which procedural vehicle, and this is the point that Sotomayor is making here. It is now, everybody's agreed they're entitled to do something, but which is best situated for their injunctive and declaratory claims? Individual habeas or a class action filed in D.C.? The government may well prefer to defend against 300 or more individual habeas petitions that face the class action in D.C. That is especially so because the government could transfer detainees to particular locations in an attempt to secure a more hospitable judicial forum. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Yes, imagine that. Lawfare is a two-way street. And we're going to see why that may have backfired when they move people around. But such a preference for defending against one form of litigation over the other is far from the kind of concrete and irreparable harm the court must take the extraordinary step of intervening to do. And they say, meanwhile, funneling plaintiffs' claims and individual actions across the nation risks exposing them to severe and irreparable harm. Rather than seeking to enjoin, the detainees must each obtain counsel and file habeas petitions on their own accord, all without knowing whether they will remain in detention or where they were arrested or be secretly transferred to an alternative location. I don't know. Hey, you've got all those organizations out there. File your shit. That requirement may have life or death consequences. Individuals who are unable to secure counsel or who cannot timely appeal an adverse judgment rendered by a habeas court face the prospect of removal into the perilous conditions of El Salvador's SCOTUS, where detainees suffer egregious human rights abuses. Anyone the government mistakenly deports in its piecemeal and rushed implementation will face the same grave risk. Yeah, well, the government says, oops, people get wrongfully deported all the time. The stakes are all the more light and the obvious that the government insisted that once it sends someone to SCOTUS, cannot be made to retrieve them because it's the El Salvadoran government's problem. So the government's resistance to facilitating the turn of individuals erroneously removed only amplifies the specter that if this court someday declares the proclamation unlawful, scores of individual lives may be irretrievably lost. So they also then talk about the maxim of unclean hands, and it's an equity issue. And they say that the non-compliance without accounting for the government has permeated this litigation, except they have complied. And they say, he who comes into equity must come with clean hands. It's long guided the court's exercise of discretion. And it's the unclean hands doctrine. And she says, while equity does not demand its suitors have led blameless lives, it does require they shall have acted fairly and without fraud or deceit as to the controversy. They talk about this not acting fairly. Now notice, there are 3 dots. That is the limit of what ACB is agreeing to. So that's it. And ACB agrees the government sought to avoid judicial review. So that's where it stops, but ACB is from there. The government's conduct in this litigation poses an extraordinary threat to the rule of law. She's not agreeing to that. That a majority of this court now rewards the government for its behavior with discretionary equitable relief is indefensible. We as a nation, the court of law, should be better than this. I respectfully dissent. Okay. Now, you also have Justice Jackson. She says, I joined the dissent in full and would deny the application for all the reasons explained. She says, this is dangerous. She says, for lovers of liberty, this should be quite concerning. Oh, the government's already done a lot of stuff that's quite concerning. Trust me. Don't you worry. There's a lot of other stuff. But she says, this court now seems fit to intervene, hastily dashing off a 4-paragraph opinion, discarding the district court's order based on a new legal pronouncement that one might have thought would require significant deliberation. No. As we talked about, the court is like, I'm fucking tired of this. We're not doing this anymore. So that's why it's short. They're going, Judge Boasberg. And they're saying, no, you don't get this. This is not your jurisdiction. Fuck off. Like we said, this was coming. I kind of warned people. I told you the court was tiring of this. And the court has officially started to get up and undo its belt. It's going to start whooping ass in a second. This is where it's going to start. So she says, I lament the courts have embarked on a new era of procedural variability and has done so in a casual and equitable, in my view, inappropriate manner. She says, and she invokes Korematsu. She says, at least when the court went off base in the past, it left a record so posterity could see how it went wrong. Yeah, and it didn't really fucking matter because it's gone wrong all the time. They say, with more and more of our most significant rulings taking place in the shadows of our emergency docket. And this is on the emergency docket, chat. This is actually, if you've ever heard the term the shadow docket, this is what that is. This is the shadow docket. This is where things get ruled on. It's an actual thing here. This is the non-merits docket. So the merits of the AEA were not decided today. It was just an issue staying on this. So that is the problem here. She says, this leaves less and less of a trace. But make no mistake, we are just as wrong now as we have been in the past. With similarly devastating consequences, it just seems we are now less willing to face it. And that's it. Okay, so what does that actually mean here? So here's the big takeaways. Even now, the Trump administration agrees you get due process. Well, what does that actually mean? We don't know yet. That part hasn't been decided. Do you go in front of an immigration judge? What type of hearings do you get? How do you get those hearings? How do you appeal these hearings? Do you just get habeas in front of a federal judge? Like, we don't really know, like, the full extent of this yet. How that's all going to work out. So, that's where it starts. Like, that's the thing, guys. So this wasn't a big, like, and this is where you see people like Julie Kelly and Libs of TikTok, these retards. Trump, the Supreme Court sides with Trump. No, they didn't. There was no ruling on the AEA. And I'm not sure the court's going to support the AEA. Like I said, we'll see. But this wasn't a, massive bombshell victory for Trump. No, it wasn't. Like I said, the title was clickbait, chat. I drew you in on it. Also for Julie Kelly, she comes in and says, Sotomayor may be the dumbest person on earth. I don't disagree with you. Her dissent is a cut and paste of the lawsuit, including claims the president secretly signed the AAA and proclamations to begin deportations that day. Well, that's true. He did do it. He secretly signed it. He did it as a surprise attack. So, yeah. I mean, like, it's okay to admit that. You just got to say you're okay with it. But yes, getting back to Libs of TikTok, the AEA has not been ruled upon to be constitutional here. That's a separate matter for a separate day. Remember, we can only rule on what's in front of us. So that's the problem. That's the problem here. This is a kind of like actually technically procedural victory for the Trump administration. For the people fighting for the JGG and the other trendy arugula guys, they're able to get that relief they want. They are able to get some sort of due process. So this is actually, this is a bit of a defeat for the Trump administration. Initially at the beginning, like, we can do whatever the fuck we want. And now they've kind of backed down and they back down and they back down. So this isn't the ultimate end all be all. The other issue, and this is not really an issue, but it's something to point out, that two of the Venezuelans in this case are now in New York. So guess what? The habeas petitions have been filed in New York. So this will happen in the federal courts of appeals in the Second Circuit, rather than the Fifth Circuit. So that's the interesting part of this. Two of the detainees said their clients have been transferred from Texas to a detention center in Goshen, New York. And so they're going to be able to do this here. They're going to challenge some things in a different way. So that's the thing here. That's the thing. Like, there are means of doing this, and the government kind of shot at, if they moved them to New York, well, now they're in a more favorable place if you're trying to get habeas. The Fifth Circuit probably wouldn't be. The Second Circuit's going to be far more far more friendly to people opposing their deportation. So there you go. Now, from here, there's also, in addition to things, Judge Boasberg today did a minute order. This is just where they put something out there, and he says he's vacating the TROs. The Supreme Court held the plaintiffs cannot be deported under the AEA without an opportunity to challenge their removal in federal court. He says it also determined the appropriate venue for the proceedings is the Southern District of Texas or wherever they're currently held. So this court orders the hearing is vacated. The preliminary injunction is vacated. Now, this is a problem. The Supreme Court just told this judge, you have no jurisdiction. But order part number 2, the plaintiff shall file a notice by April 16th indicating whether they believe they still have a basis to proceed on the preliminary injunction motion, and if so, propose a briefing schedule. You were literally told you had no jurisdiction to hear this. You have no jurisdiction. There's literally no jurisdiction to hear this. Now, what does that do? Well, he shouldn't be hearing this. They said you don't have the jurisdiction for it. Now, there is one thing the court does probably still have jurisdiction for, and I disagree with other people who have said this. When it comes to the issue of the contempt proceedings, and Judge Boasberg's looking at who he can hold in contempt, at the time he was operating under what he believed had a valid court order, he has the right to hold a party in contempt still. I would argue he does. So the contempt issues probably could still continue, but I'm assuming he's smart, he's going to let it just go by the wayside. But we will see here. But yes, this judge will not put the fries in the bag. You know, he understands I can't hold a hearing on the preliminary injunction, but I'm going to let you decide if you still want to pursue one. The Supreme Court said you can't do it. And yet he does what he wants. Remember, if you're trying to convince me that the judicial branch is not out of control, this is not how you would want to do it. This is convincing me otherwise that they're absolutely fucking insane. That they're absolutely insane right now. I know people are all upset about Amy Coney Barrett, but it's just, you guys, like I said, everybody needs to relax. Although I will say, this is pretty funny here. ACB adopts an MS-13 gang member, and that's just because she has been, she's adopted other children from Haiti, and she's adopting an MS-13 member there. Nico says, why have I assumed this judge is smart? Because he's not completely retarded. Seller says, Shipley loves this judge for some reason. Shipwreck crew. Well, yeah, but Shipley, he's overall pretty fair in his analysis. He's pretty fair in his analysis. And somebody emailed me or DM'd me on Twitter, and they were bringing up the whole idea of how did Judge Boasberg get this case? So the way it works when you have a court with multiple judges, especially in bigger cities and things like that, in federal court, definitely. You have judges that are on call to hear emergency matters because things may happen in the night. Things may happen over the weekends. Things may happen on holidays. So you have judges who are in an emergency role. They're the on-call judge. And just like at a hospital, there's doctors who are on call. But if you can't get a hold of them right away, you try to call them and they don't answer, you can then go to the chief judge or the presiding judge or what might be known as your administrative judge. For example, if you have multiple judges in a courthouse for the same type of court, eventually one of them, they have to decide who's presiding, who's in charge of us, in a formal sense. So Judge Boasberg is the chief judge for the District of Columbia. So they tried the on-call judge. It didn't work. Now, who knows? Did they just go ring, ring, ring? Oh, God, I guess he's not there. Judge Boasberg, help us. Or did they try to do it the right? We don't really know. And then it becomes an issue with Judge Boasberg. How did he, there's no ill issue about how it came to him. Now, he could merely decide on that little initial bit and then call the on-call guy, be like, Bob, it's yours. Or, I'm going to make a decision right now. We're kicking it back out into the hopper and let it go to whoever it goes to. Those things could happen. Or he could say, you know what, I'm keeping it. I'm going to take it. It's mine now. That's not improper. And, maybe he did it for improper reasons or the improper thoughts. We don't know. We don't know the answer to that. Garrett, yes, this gets gamed 100% of the time. Yes, it gets gamed all the fucking time. I know it does. I'm trying to good faith Gary this, okay? Sitch PSA Sitch would be so proud of me right now. I'm good faith gearing. I am good faith gearing the shit out of this. That's how it works. Now, did he do this because he wanted to? I kind of get the vibe he did. But it is what it is. It is what it is, chat. It is what it is. So, let's see. The cops and DAs know which judges to call to get what they want. It's a handshake deal. Well, there are attorneys who know which judges to call to get bond if they want something too. Like there's a whole thing about that. Like, if you are an attorney and you can get a judge's cell phone number, that is a when I was in Toledo, I actually had I had two of them had actually given me their cell phone numbers. And you used it sparingly. I only used it a handful of times. Like I think twice really. You never overused it. You saved it for when it mattered. Because that's important shit. So there we go. Eric with the K says, "What up? How you doing, man? How you doing?" So that is kind of where we are with things. Now, I will say this is something that came out. We have one more case to go through, and this is a bit of what's going on here. And this is the Department of Education et al. Versus California et al. We're not going through all 22 pages of this, but this does show us some important stuff. Okay. Once again, these courts are tiring of the TRO shit. So once again, this is a procuring opinion from the 4th. And it says, on March 10th, the District Court for Massachusetts issued what it styled as a TRO, enjoining the government from terminating various education-related grants. It also required the government to pay out past due grant obligations and continue paying as they accrue. The court's conclusion rested on a finding the respondents are likely to succeed on their merits under the APA. So the government filed an administrative stay. The application was presented to Justice Jackson and by her referred to the court. Remember, chat, Justice Jackson could have denied it right away, but she decided to, for some reason, she said, "Hey, Sammy Alito, Clarence Thomas, Amy Comey Barrett, Kavanaugh, Neil, hey guys, Brewski Brett, hey, let's take a look at this." I don't know why she did it. She's absolutely insane. But she did it. So they said, although the courts of appeals generally lack appellate jurisdiction, several factors in favor of this considered a preliminary injunction. Among other considerations, the district court order carries many of the hallmarks of a preliminary injunction. And it says, moreover, the district court's basis for issuing the order is strongly challenged, as the government is likely to succeed in showing the court lacked jurisdiction to order the payment of money under the APA. And it says, the APA's waiver of sovereign immunity does not apply if any other statute grants consent to suit expressly or impliedly forbids the relief which is sought. And it says, nor does the waiver apply to claims seeking money damages. And they do say that a district court's jurisdiction is not barred by the possibility an order setting aside the action may result, but they recognize that the immunity doesn't extend to enforce contractual obligations. And this is where they point out that the Tucker Act grants the Court of Federal Claims, a separate court with separate jurisdiction, over suits based on any express or implied contracts with the United States. So at that point, you have to seek it in the Federal Court of Claims. That wasn't done here. So they also point out that, they haven't met the rest of the parts of the TRO. And they say no grantee permitted or promised to withdraw funds should be granted termination or reinstated, and the district court's decision to impose bond is over. And they say, by contrast, the government argues the TRO would not suffer irreparable harm while the TRO is stayed. And they point out the respondents have represented this in litigation. And this is true. The state said, we could keep funding this on our own. We don't need your fucking money. That's not a brilliant argument to make. But you know what? If it turns out they're right, they can ultimately recover the funds. They can recover any of their funds. And for respondents to instead decline to keep the programs operating, then any ensuing harm would be of their own making. So they decide to seek the application as a stay pending the appeal and grant the application. So they stay it, and it's been stayed. So the Chief Justice said he would deny the application. Okay. So the Chief Justice said he would have denied it. And right now, Justice Jackson referred it. So we know it's already 1 against. Are there other parties against it? Justice Kagan's against. So that's 2 against. Who else is against it? Who else is against this right now? So you got a shorter things here. Justice Jackson and Justice Sotomayor. That gives us 4. We have 4, chat. That means it's 5-4. So ACB jumped the fence and went back over. So while people are panicking about Amy Coney Barrett, she didn't, and notice Justice Jackson bloviates on and on and on and on and on and on and on. So I know you guys are worried about ACB. She's starting to tire of this shit. That's the positive thing to take away from this. This is the positive thing to take away from it. So while you guys are getting worried, I'm just trying to explain to you there's a lot more that's going on there. Okay? So don't panic. Now is not the time for fear. That comes later. Yes. Does this make you feel powerful? So while people are getting nervous, just calmate. James Hurley says thoughts on Nick admitting to cybercrime shit. Never admit to committing fucking crimes. Don't be retarded. Never admit to committing fucking crimes. Don't be retarded. So, all right here. So, we got other stuff. Hold on here. We got stuff to get into. Shredder S07 gifting 10 subs, chat. That's right. Coming in there hot with 10 spicy subs.
You see this? That means not welcome.
That's right, chat. Not welcome. Not welcome. Gray's not welcome. Ag Biochemist, been a member for 24 months. I've been here for too long, and now I have a wrench. Well, thank you for your support and your generosity. I appreciate it. And guys, I said this before, and I say it again. Thank you to all of you who are here. I know not everybody can afford to do it or want to do it. I appreciate all of you that have been here, and the old guard. There's some of you out there that are still there. I know the names. I recognize you. Thank you guys for all being here. I appreciate it. I appreciate you sticking around. Epic Fantasy said, Aaron isn't lying about the FBI. His local PD referred it to the Joint Task Force for Minnesota, and that is FBI for cyber crimes. Yeah, it could be. I mean, it very well could be. They're in charge of that stuff, but I mean, I don't know. I mean, right now, Kash Patel's got them doing other shit, so I don't know. Instead of disbanding the FBI, he's doing things with them, which I'm not sure is the best thing, but whatever. So, could be. Jim, how you doing, man? Jim tells you is saying, didn't Canada label the Proud Boys as terrorists? Yes, they did. They did. The Proud Boys did nothing wrong. And then Gandalf the Grey says, do you think we'll ever have a 4.5 to 4.5 decision in the Supreme Court? If we had one of those comical funhouse, cleavers falling down and like accidentally split someone in half, then maybe. But otherwise, no. Sadly, no. EDW Raptor or you could have those 2 chicks that are the conjoined twins that got married, the girls that had a TV show for a while. Like would that count as like a half a vote if they went one way or another? Yeah. High Plains Drifter says Clyde's a good boy. Of course he is. And then Joe Schmo says, Cash has caught all the top 10 most wanted. That's something, I guess. Well, We didn't like the top 10 most, like, who's on? Okay, hold on here. Who is the FBI top 10 right now? Like, who are these people? I mean, when you talk about like the top 10 most wanted, it's like, why can't it be like in the 90s when you had the top 10 with the Unabomber and Osama bin Laden and like cool shit like that? I mean, look at who are these guys, like these guys here. Like, this is just all kind of like meh. This is just yawn-tastic. Who are these people? Who the fuck are these people? I mean, like, ooh, Ryan James' wedding. What did this guy do? Conspiracy to do controlled substances, blah, 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 drugs. Okay, well, what's his name? His name is Giant or El Jefe. Okay, I mean, that makes sense. Let's see. British Kumar Shitabai Patel. Oh, first degree murder, second degree murder. Okay, this homie got down. Homeboy got down here. Okay. Who buddy? They all look soft. I mean, yeah. I get that, but it's like, all right, so so we got that guy. Alejandro Rosales Castillo, I think. Murder, blah. Wilver Villegas Palomino. Isn't Palomino like a type of horse too? Narco terrorism, blah 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 blah. Ruha in Antova. I don't know. Is she like Romanian or some shit? I don't know. Let's see here. Let's see. Come on, load up. Let's go, FBI. In the meantime, look at this guy. Vital Home Innocent. This guy from Haiti. Look at him. He's like, I have to shit to my brains out. So the conspiracy to commit hostage taking resulting in death. Where? Hold on. What is this guy? Let's take a look here. Okay. Place of birth. A.T. Yeah. Don't you know, child? He worked as a leader of the crazy Barrier. Allegedly worked together with the gang 400 Mawazo, and he kidnapped 17 Christian missionaries in Haiti. The hostages were held at gunpoint for 61 days. They demanded ransoms, and then they kidnapped a U.S. citizen and killed a second one. Okay. Well, he's somewhere. I'm sure in Haiti that they're eating him right now as part of they're going to eat him and kill him. So this lady here. Okay, so Ruja in Natova. Okay. Conspiracy to commit wire fraud, blah, 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 blah. Oh, Chad, I was pretty damn close here. Where is she from? I said Romania, Bulgaria. So she still might be a gypsy. We'll see. She might be a gypsy. So she's a fraud. She's defrauded investors. She did OneCoin. A cryptocurrency called OneCoin. Okay, well. Yes, it is the most premium of coin of everywhere. The most premium of coin. She might be. I don't know. She might be. Might be a gypsy. I don't know. You will never get this. You will never get this, gypsy. So moving on. Let's see what else she did here. Okay. Let's see who else we got. Omar Alexander Cardenas. Murder. Okay. Murder in my mind state. Oh, wow. Fucking fat boy. Damn. I mean, repping us fat guys out there. Got the fatties. Who did he murder? He murdered a man in August in a shopping center. It's alleged he fired 7 rounds from a handgun, striking him in the head. Okay. And he, yeah. Okay. Well, he's somewhere. So let's see. There we go. Well, good for him. Got the, so let's see. Francisco Javier Roman Bardalis. Okay, narco-terrorism, blah, blah, blah. Fausto, Isidro, Mesa Flores. Let's see here. Fausto. Conspiracy to distribute 500 grams or more of meth. That's a lot of fucking meth, chat. That's a lot of meth. That's a lot of meth. 1 kilogram of heroin or more of heroin. 5 kilograms or more of cocaine. Damn. Last known whereabouts, Spicer, Minnesota. And then Yulon Adone Arshaga Carias. I don't know. Okay. Rico Suave. Possession of machine guns. Based. Conspiracy to possess machine guns. Based. Let's see this guy. Who is it? Where is he at? He's born in Honduras. Okay. He's known as Porky. So he's an MS-13 member. As the alleged leader of MS-13 for all of Honduras. No shit. No shit. And who says MS-13 isn't a problem? He can flare back to CCOT. Oh, hold on, chat. That didn't flip over here. Hold on. This could flip over. He can flare his way back to CCOT. Possession of machine guns. Based. But yes, as the alleged leader of MS-13 for all of Honduras. Yes, he's in charge of the pupusa shakedowns. Sean comes across his own most wanted poster. Yeah. I'm leaving the fat guy up so I look thinner. Yes. Oh. One old guy's opinion says wire fraud is one of the highest revenue streams for organized terror in criminal organizations. Yep. Yes, it is. Very much true. Very much true. Doing stuff on the wires is a great way to make money. 100%. It is a way to make money. EDW Raptor for $5 says, and Cat, not Williams. Cat, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well out there. Goes, boop. Although it's more like this. Boop. There you go. You got to hear the boop. That's the thing. Clyde does not like being booped. Lainey actually does boop. And Lainey, pokes you with her snout. Clyde, you try to boop him, and he's like, no. He doesn't like getting booped. EDW Raptor for $5 more goes. He tries again. And Unhung Hero gifted 10 subs, chat. 10 subs. Doing his part, chat. Are you doing your part out there? Taking care of business, getting rid of these grays, just crushing them everywhere he goes. Just look at that carnage. And he summed it up best. Get stepping, Grays. Get stepping. Get to stepping. Very true. And then Schnauzer Patrol says, I need a Clyde clone. I wish everybody could have a dog like Clyde. I think the world would be a better place. Pseudosnark says, catching up for a bit. Why not under the APA? Why habeas? I thought that you were making a joke there about because in Spanish they use the Y. Why the habeas petition? Because that's what you're challenging it is. You're challenging your status. You're making them prove it. That's a habeas petition. So that's why. Like I said, I think the court is also just tired of this, and this is their way of dick smacking the courts. Oh, some guy's flying doing some IFR tonight. Good luck, homie. But been here for 15 months. Thanks for the support. I appreciate it. One old guy's opinion says, remember me from Good Logic's New Year's Eve? I do. So, thank you for being here. It's been a little while since I've seen you, but welcome. Thank you for stopping by. I'm not Joe, but I think I do a pretty good job at this. My gray hair has advanced quite a bit since I was last here. Well, it's we're moving along. We're moving along, chat. You'll be surprised. Could we have dire Clydes like the dire wolves? Yeah. Oh. Tim Poole says, I thought about cloning one of my cats, but the process is really disgusting and cruel. Well, honestly, too, you remember, like if you watch Futurama, when Fry wanted to clone his dog, and he realized, no, he didn't want to do it. So, I mean, that's the one thing that's sad when they're gone. Like, I don't know if I'd want to bring him back. So. No, I'm not talking about Nibbler. I'm not talking about Nibbler. That was Leela's pet. Talking about Fry's dog. That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about Leela's dog because Nibbler is, that's not what I'm talking about here. Yes, it's Seymour. Seymour is the dog. So that episode is so sad with the dog outside the pizza shop. But you know what? It's okay. It's okay. It's a good thing. It's a good show. It's a good episode. It gets you in the feels. It's up there. There's like those moments. When you watch that show, it gets you in the feels. When Randy Shugart goes up to Mike Durant and hands him a rifle and goes, "Gordy's gone. Gordy's gone, man. I'll be outside. Good luck." That gets you in the feels too. Those things get you in the feels when you're a guy. They really get to you. They really get to you. So, yeah, F's in the chat. F's in the chat. Futurama had some pretty poignant episodes. Yeah, for being a bunch of dingbat lefties, they were. So when Pepsi Man says, and then they redid the Sad Dog episode every season. When Futurama revival losing all meaning. Yes. Yep, I agree. But it was the original Futuramas that were the best. Amon Rezu saying it was so bad as a kid, but I see it now and it's good. Well, that's just growing up. Growing up. You can appreciate it more. And at the time when they made it, they probably didn't realize what they had in their hands. It's kind of how stuff goes. Darkwood Presents says, yes, here, Yeller. Come back, Yeller. The best dog on dog in the West. That's a good one, too. That's such a sad one, too, when Travis has to put down Yeller. So I know Mr. Squiggles is out there, so I hope we're not rubbing it in at all when people are talking about the animals. So I know you just said you lost it. I know you said you just lost your dog, you lost your dad, and lost your uncle. So I hope we're not trying to rub it in for you out there, buddy. Blade says the pets will always take back what they gave you when it's time for them to go with interest. It feels like sometimes. Yeah. Yep. That's very true. Andrew says Gordy's gone, man. Gordy's gone, man. Yeah, very, very true. Now the skinnies are in Minneapolis, yeah. Yes. Oh, the one about Fry's brother, yes, the first Martian. Yes, his nephew becoming the first Martian is pretty cool. Like when you have Seth MacFarlane's voice, Fry's dog, I no longer care anymore. Yeah, I didn't actually see that. I knew about the first ones. I didn't really get that far after. I didn't get into later Futurama. I was kind of like, I'm good with the beginning stuff out there. You're watching OG Futurama right now, yes. Patty says you are young as fuck, Sean. Yeah, I told you guys I'm 39, yeah. I like the poplars episode the best. I love the part when like the guy bites the head off the one poplar and he's like, blah, and he starts like putting the head back on. That's the best part. Evan says that's the bargain. Yes. So he says, wait, we aren't going full PWR here? No. Stick with the first 4 seasons, I agree. Yes, remember Fries' own grandpa. Yes, that too. Trump once says, I had a hard time you were believing you were that young until you start rapping all these lyrics. Well, I don't know what to tell you, man. I don't know what to tell you, but I appreciate it. We can watch Futurama on Sunday during your 24-hour stream. Ah, funny. You're a funny guy, Sully. Not do a 24-hour stream. One old guy's opinion says, when Skinny married his congressional representative's sister, so he could come to America. Yes, he did. And it looks like that's almost pretty much been true. Every time I rap, your house loses another 5K in value. Oh, I guess we'll do some Eminem, with the keys in the van, in a gat in each hand, went up in the East Land and shot me a policeman. Fuck a peace plan or your citizen bystands. I'm surprised the way Sean raps. With the way he raps, he hates watermelon as much as he does. Oh, I sound too white. Yeah, well, I know my voice is a little deeper than Eminem back in the day too. So, does tonight feel like Monday to anyone else? It does. It felt like Monday all day today. It was very weird. So let's see, what are we up to? I'm remembering got everybody else. Did I miss anything? No, I'm making sure I didn't miss anything here, chat. So we got through that pretty quick, guys. I didn't realize it's only been an hour and a half. I really wanted to make sure, because I know some of you guys have said I spend too much time reading stuff. Was this better tonight for what you guys kind of want with some of these things, where I really kind of just hit the points and kept going? Because I've been trying to think about that. I've been trying to be a little mindful of that as we go. Tonight's a good night for model building. Yeah, we might do some stuff tonight because we've got this all this is clear coded, so we might put some decals on it and stuff. And get that actually kind of going. Katie's like, no, it was trash. Well, thank you. I assume it's normally trash. I didn't need that part. I swear I usually last longer. The last year has been a Monday. Well, no, I know there's times where if we're talking about it, it helps when I'm going through each section and we're talking jurisdiction. We kind of lay things out. This stuff I think is more important to hit the points. So, Joshua Nofsky says, new number, who it is? Oh. You want me to read the Protocols of the Elders of Zion and the Jewish Revolutionary Spirit live on stream? We don't have enough time for that. YouTube, oy vey, shut it down. That will happen. No, I don't wish to tempt the fates that way. So no, we will not do that. Hunter Brooks says, I'll be outside. Joe Schmo says, my mom left us 4 months ago. I've been helping out my dad. I still think he'll see her. I still think I see her around the house. Well, you might. I'm sorry you lost your mom. Yeah. Tim Pool says, no problem with this for prior episodes of this one. Well, I know, but there's some times where I'm trying to make sure I get through these in a concise, fast manner, especially the Supreme Court shit. Because I know sometimes people we really need to get to the chase of what did it actually mean? Because if you think everybody can just be a fuerad, well, they can't, and that's the thing people I think need to admit. Did I cover Carmelo Anthony yet? No, that's going to be that might be tomorrow. It depends, because I had somebody's been communicating with me about what they want to do, and I might be live with them tomorrow covering something. So let me see here. Hold on here. What am I looking for here? Um, um, oh, by the way, guys, we're almost Karen Reed almost as a full jury. They are now. Oh, Darkwood says fuck your Discord server. Well, I'm going in on Jesse PS to discuss Mersh. Well, doesn't Mersh live in Ohio? I think he lives down in Dayton, don't he? Or he talks about Dayton all the time. So, oh, don't be too specific. Well, we'll see. Don't stream with Aaron. It's not Aaron. I think it'll be a lot of fun. It'll be a lot of fun. Am I going back on the kill stream? No. But Skeeve Man for £5 sterling. Not the King Sterling. He's a proud Scotsman. He says, Sean, you should treat me as if we're your personal throne and drop those nuggets of knowledge on us. I appreciate it. Thank you. Shut up. You're overthinking things. Okay, I can do that too. DF88 says, Mein Fatführer, Sean. Oh, he's right to my heart. Thank you. This stream is good till you drag the end out. You should take this post stream eval to locals or something. Well, that is something I think. Is Josh streaming with you about Greer? No. That might be something coming up as well, but not right now. That's not something. That's just what boy you'd refuse an invite to the illustrious kill stream. I'm gonna build a stream on that land, bitch. Oh, Merch is in Florida? Okay. I thought he was in he talks about Dayton, Ohio, or he did for the longest time. I thought he was from there or something. I was like, shit. I gotta share this state with Cyrax and fucking Mersh and fucking the Reverend Dr. Robert L. McKim Sr. I'm looking forward to that. All right, guys. So with that said, though, Karen Reed is actually they almost have full jury. They picked 12. They just need a couple of alternates, and that's probably going to get it very, very quick. So, be ready. We might have some updates there. And you guys want Clyde again? Hold on. Let me see if I can get him. Clyde! Come here, Bubba. The Dayton Ham Fest is soon. That sounds disgusting. Come here, Bubba. Come here. Oh, you have bedhead. It's okay, buddy. Come here. Hey. Oh, hi, Clyde. Come here. Ah, there we go. Oh, Clyde, you're in my thing. Sorry, Clyde. You're in my headset. Oh, and the ham radio. I didn't know. The ham radio fest. Is that really not only are you going to Dayton, you're going to Dayton to hang out with a bunch of sad hams. That sounds awful. That sounds so awful. The ham radio fest. I'm going to be the third co-host on Smark, guys. No. Clyde, hey, you got to look at the screen. People want to see you. They want to see you, Bubber. Clyde's here to collect the Clyde tariffs. Well, nope. Clyde, come on, Bubba. All right. See, that's the neat thing about the cords. I can pull them out and slide them around. All right, chat. We are all caught up here. Man, why aren't I on shortwave? I just haven't gotten there yet. That's like a next thing. I need to take my radio test. That's something I was thinking about doing this spring. What type of dog is Clyde? Clyde is a bunch of different things. He is primarily Shih Tzu, but he's also some sort of terrier, a Lhasa Apso. What else is he? A Chow Chow, but mainly Shih Tzu. And some sort of terrier, like I said. Because he got the underbite. He's got the Shih Tzu underbite. But yes, he's a very good boy. So I need to take my ham test. Thanks, Katie. All right. I'll be running my own number station. That would be so funny to do. 17, 6, 5. So, hey, buddy. Huh? What's wrong? Well, we're going to wrap this up here, Klein, okay? I'm going to set you on the ground. But first, I'll give you a treat because everybody wants some ASMR. The treat, Tex. The treat, Tex. Here you go. Hold on. There we go. All right. Is Clyde throwing a Roman? Kind of. He's, hold on here. He's throwing a Roman, chat. Clyde, you can't do that. All right. All right, Clyde, I'm setting you on the ground, butter. All right, chat. We're all done here. We might just hang out for a little bit. It's 10:30. We're gonna hang out on here after this is over. I'll start up another thing, and we'll just we'll play around with this, probably do a little bit of work on it tonight, and we'll just hang out. So can I pet that dog? No. I have another Judge Fleischer video that touches on traffic stops and jurisdiction. Yeah, we can watch that and talk about it. We can definitely do that. But we're gonna take a break from here. Give me a couple minutes, and I'll actually hold on here. Just if you guys want to hang out, give me 1 second. I'll switch this over. StreamYard. Live stream. We're going to schedule this for 10:40. We're just going to give this like 2 minutes. That's the weird part. When you work really hard and you get stuff done quick, you're like, oh, it's 10:30 now. If I have time to like do a second show and hang out and just have fun. So here we go. We're going to do that. So just give us a couple minutes here, chat, and we'll start working on this. But we are all set. I want you guys to... It's 5 minutes, I know. I'm just not going to sit here. I'm going to redirect you guys. And can we talk about Mama JF? Yeah, we'll listen to that a little bit. We'll do that a little. I need a KF call sign. That would be so funny. So... All right, hold on here, guys. We will... Let me switch this over and take care of that. But in the meantime, chat, just remember what's going on. And remember until next time, just because you did it does not mean you're guilty. Also doesn't mean you can get a fuered. But it might. It might mean you can get a fuered. We just don't know. We don't know. So as I said, guys, it is not the astounding, resounding victory for President Trump, but it is what it is. So I'm going to send you guys over. So in the meantime, chat, take care, and I will see you guys. Did we miss the goal? I think we did. Yeah, that's okay. Sometimes we miss the goal, chat. Afuera will not become America's new motto, but that's all right. That's all right. That's all right, chat. So I will see you guys shortly. Take care.
Weapons, blacksmithing, and models of planes, esoteric works, and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting, and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops, even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty, but please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy